Hi, everybody. Good day, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're viewing this. Welcome to Champion Within Conversations. For those who have watched my show before, it's a show where I interview champions from all different walks of life to find out about their trials, about their triumphs, about the things that make them tick. And I reach out to people who have inspired me in some kind of way. And today, I'm very excited to have somebody that I've been watching on TV for a number of years. She needs no introduction, but I'm going to give her one anyways. We first saw her on Road Rules, Semester at Sea. After that, she was on Challenge Extreme. She was on Battle of the Sexes 1, Battle of the Sexes 2, and then there was a big hiatus in between there. And then she made a triumphant comeback on the Challenge All Stars 2, which is now on Paramount Plus. So I'm so excited to have Ayanna on here today. Welcome.
Hey,
There's
thank you for
something I
having
wanted to say
me.
first. I know that many years ago you talked about your LL Cool J moment. How excited you were when you saw LL Cool J on the Challenge Extreme when you were doing the whole rollerball challenge.
And oh no, his
And
name is not Chris Kattan, but it's guy's name is Chris, the other actor that was in that movie.
yeah,
We were on the set for Rollerball, which was at that time a really fun, but an action flick that was being filmed in, I believe, um, gosh, where were we? I think we were in someplace in North America, maybe.
hmm
I mean, someplace in like near the Maine, Vermont area, or we were in Canada, one of those two places. But
yeah, close
yeah,
enough.
that was you talk about a moment I will never forget. Ultimate fangirling moment. Like to me, LL Cool J. That was it.
Well, I wanted to tell you this is my LL Cool J moment meeting you because trust me, watching this as a teenager all that time ago, I would never think that I'd be sitting here on Zoom years later having a direct conversation with Ayanna.
Oh my goodness. Well, look, this world is smaller than we think, and we all put our pants legs on one at a time. Unless you're my 2-year-old, then it's kind of weird. Maybe it's two legs in one hole, and then you're doing it. But even then, one of the things that I appreciate about your podcast is that you talk about the challenge within, and you talk about, overcoming obstacles. So, I'm looking forward to just, really doing a deep dive in, as two human beings trying to make our best way on this planet.
Thank you for saying that. And I wanted to get into how and why I ended up reaching out to you in the first place. I know you've talked about this plenty of times, but back in the day, we didn't have direct access to you guys. We just watched you on TV and then waited until the next season. Whoever comes on, comes on. If you're on there, you're on. If you're not, you're not. But you're not really talking to challengers directly. So I would just watch my show, and I had my one or two friends in school that watched it, and we'd catch up in school or we'd talk on the phone. But there wasn't a challenge community for me. So recently, within the last few years, I started joining some Facebook groups and everything. And somebody had made a post in one of those Facebook groups saying, challengers who respond when you DM them on Instagram. So there was a list of about 10 people that they were listing out. And I picked like 3 or 4 of them that were my personal favorites. And I DM'd all of them, you being one, and there was another few. I got one response, and the response was from you. And what I appreciated was it wasn't just like a, hey, thanks for being a fan type of response. It was an actual detailed response where you answered all my questions and we've been talking back and forth. You answer my story sometimes when I have personal things going on. You've given me words of encouragement, voice notes. So that's why I said at the beginning, I consider you to be an authentic person.
Well,
And
look, the timing of everything, and not to necessarily speak for the challengers that maybe didn't respond, but especially for, folks who were on the first iterations, the pre TJ challenges, the ones with, Johnny Mosley and, other people, Dave Mira, who, passed away. You have a little bit of a experience gap with social media as it pertains to our time on the shows, because as you said, it didn't exist in this way. So our experiences are tied in many respects to that time that was pre major internet, pre massive social media, pre this access and engagement in this way. And so for some of us, I think, I mean, I can speak for myself and then others that I've talked to in the course of the last 4 or 5 months of this. We literally are just starting in social media, period. Like we
Yeah.
may have had a Facebook where we were connected to actual people that were in our, personal lives. Um, but outside of that, a lot of folks don't have TikToks, don't have Instagram, or if they do have an Instagram, it's very small. They're still working out how they engage with it. So you literally were one of my very first followers. And then when you followed me and I, followed back, I was like, this dude is cool. Like had this massive weight loss and he did this Spartan race. And I've always been interested in that race. So I feel like it was very organic the way you and I connected. And, truly it's like when I connected with a few other people really early on,
Yeah.
I was literally also exploring the platform of Instagram. I'm exploring just how to do a reel and what's the difference between a reel and a story and a post.
I've seen things on your Instagram that I didn't know existed.
Yeah,
These
man,
reaction videos that you do.
Yeah, I've been using it as an opportunity to just really learn. I'm a mom of four. Just to kind of give a little detail to my circumstances right now. 3 of my 4 children are in school full time during the day, and then I'm at home most of the time with one. It's very, very expensive in DC to do full time daycare. So I have a part time sitter, but most of the times I'm engaging with my little one, just me and her during the day. So what I've challenged myself to do as I rebuild my resume and rebuild my skills to re-enter the full-time workforce, I use those times to say, okay, today I'm going to learn a little bit more about QuickBooks, which is in my industry. I'm going to learn a little bit more about the opportunities in education that are out here. And I'm also going to learn a little bit more about Instagram. And so Instagram recently with a app called ManyChat hosted a huge summit where, it was free to attend. You could, sign up and you could listen to different influencers, different business owners, different individuals, and just really hear from multiple like angles, how they use social media and why. And so as being a fly on the wall of that conversation, we talk about overcoming obstacles, overcoming challenges. A big challenge for me has been exposure and, feeling kind of apprehensive to being too exposed. However, putting a intentional task on my list during the day to say, all right, I'm going to learn a little bit more about these platforms. For me, it helps open my anxiety up a little bit around it.
Yeah.
It also helps me reaffirm my personal mission. Many times you'll go on someone's Instagram and immediately you're going to be hit with the, this is what I'm selling, buy my stuff or follow. Like this is like their whole thing. And I don't knock that because that's something they found their passion in. For me, I found that my Instagram right now is I'm passionate about having fun, like finding ways to inspire when I can, but for the most part, being silly and fun. That just gives me a little bit of, I would say, free time during the day. That's for me. Instagram is like that glass of red wine that you have.
Yeah, that's your me time. I got it.
Without having the glass of red wine, because it's very difficult when you're trying, as
you're on your fitness mission.
Yeah, when you're on your fitness mission, it's very difficult to like infuse certain things that are going to be like, ooh, these are gateways to me snacking or gateways to me doing other things. So Instagram has been, I think, a somewhat healthy outlet. I tend to, block and delete whenever it's negative. Like,
I
it's just for
know.
me,
I
it's
do
like,
that all the time.
yeah, I just block and delete whenever it's negative. Or if I'm finding that I went into a rabbit hole of Instagram, like there's this trend with these dogs right now where they're like, click, click, freeze dog, click, click, freeze dog. And I was really into it for about 5 minutes. I was like, oh wow, this is cool. And
Yeah.
and, and how do they do that? But then it was over and I didn't want to deal with it anymore. But in my feed now, all these dogs are coming up with the
Yep.
freeze dog, the freeze dog. And I'm like, oh. So what I learned in the summit and a couple of other platforms was, all right, just go back and then start reliking the things that you want to see more of in your feed. And so, it is funny, even though your name is Mark, I
Hmm.
call you Renaissance Maestro technically.
I know. I
So
know.
I'm like, well, let me go to Renaissance Maestro's page so that I can, like some more of his fitness videos and whatever he's doing. And then I'll start getting more in my feed. And it works all the time. So between you,
That's
Rachel
interesting.
Fitness, there's another person that I like to, well, I can't say that one because it's a little nasty. And I don't want to be like, oh, she nasty. But I click on that one too. And I'll see more of what I like in my
I
feed.
got you that it affects the algorithms.
It does. It really
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
And, um, also, the challenge currently is All Stars 2 is airing in Brazil. And
Wow.
I love Brazil. It's where my oldest daughter was conceived. And I've always felt like there's two places in the world that I've been where I felt like I was leaving home when it was time to go from those spaces. And one of those places is Brazil. So when I heard that the challenge was airing in Brazil, I had a chance to meet the person that did my voice for the
Oh
challenge,
wow.
which was cool. Like her voice is
That's
so
awesome.
cool. So it's so wild watching me in Portuguese, like steal a salad. So that whole moment.
We're gonna get into that too.
Yeah,
At some
so,
point.
all that being said, Mark, I'm really super humbled by this chance and this opportunity. You can let me know when you're ready to talk about it, but where I was right before I got asked to come on the challenge, wasn't it that for me, it was not like the ideal space to be in to be asked to go on an international television show, right? It's not like I live in Los Angeles and have access to all these, things that would aesthetically make you look like somebody that would be on something like that. Again, I just had a baby. I was a little over, gosh, like I think I was maybe just shy of a year postpartum when I got
Mhm.
called. So, you know, I'm really in this space of somebody that got asked back, and it was like either winning a lottery ticket or getting asked to go on Wheel of Fortune, or you got called
Wow.
on down on The Price is Right. Like it was game show time for me. I was like, this is woo! Like I literally, for me inside, I made the final when I got off the plane before we got on the yacht to go to the island place that we went to. Like
Yeah.
I won. Like the moment I got on the plane and all my kids were settled, with their grandparents and where they needed to be, I had already won. I had already won, and I knew from the day that I walked into that house that I wasn't leaving anything on the table. I wasn't leaving any regrets.
Awesome.
I was gonna have a good time. I was gonna have fun. I was gonna let nobody get me down. And
Now,
I saw that.
if you don't mind, I wanna circle back to well before that point. I want to go back to 21-year-old Ayanna. Were you in you were in school at that time, right? You were in Howard U?
Yes, I was at Howard. I was
That work.
20. All right, so let's go back in time,
Yes.
right?
So yeah, I just wanted to know what were you doing in school at that time and what attracted you to trying to be cast for Road Rules?
So my casting story, I've told it a lot of times. So I'm not going to take up too much of your time, like trying to rehash it. But my casting story cannot be separated from my experience going to Howard. I started at Howard on a academic scholarship and track scholarship. I was there full tuition, and room and board were on track. And then, with the academic part being the tuition part, and I was a hungry person most days. Because of NCAA rules, you really couldn't work with the exception of certain circumstances. Um, and at that time, this is the late '90s, so we didn't have digital cameras and
Hmm.
the tools in the media to capture what you look like in real time without it being a little bit of a production. You had to go to a drugstore to get film developed, or you had to send your film off and cross your fingers in a sense to hope that you got an image back. Um, so I found that there was an opportunity with Buna Murray Productions coming to our campus that I could literally buy a bunch of Polaroid film and sell people pictures of themselves back to themselves so that I could make some money. Because I knew that, 1,000, 2,000 people show up for an audition, they're not going to show up with, headshots. Not when you're looking for regular, real people. I mean, who got headshots back then? The word selfie did not exist in the late '90s. So that being said, I was there with my Polaroid ready, selling pictures to people that were standing in line. So, to kind of jump to the chase, one of the production people with the company were like, you can't do that. I think his name was Mikey, I believe. I might be wrong about that, but I think it was Mikey. He was like, you can't do this. This is against the rules, yada, yada. And I was like, bump your rules. I don't care. This is Howard. I go here. I'll get my lawyer. I didn't have no lawyer. But all of that loud self-righteousness, I think it just kind of came out in that moment. And I truly did not think that I would be cast. Like I was, I didn't even like fill out an application at that time when I was on the pictures. Like I was like, I'm just gonna make some money off these folks. They're trying to be on this show. This is great. Let's go,
So
right?
you weren't trying to be on the show.
Not at first, no.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't, because I wasn't standing in line. I was going up and down the line, taking pictures of people, selling them to each other. So, I wasn't in line to get auditioned. And so they
Yeah.
had pulled me aside and they were like, write your information on this page because we have to see if it was, if it was authorized for you to be taking pictures and selling them. And I was like, I don't care. I was like, I'll give you all my information, but you ain't getting my little money. And I had made a little piece of money, selling those pictures, me and a friend of mine that day. So, all that being said, like that then springboarded into me actually filling out an application, them calling me back to do a little videoing, more an intense interview. And they asked me some questions about myself. And I think because I truly didn't think I would get chosen, I just gave everything. I was like, whatever, this is going to be in some cutting room floor somewhere. They're not going to pick somebody like me. So I
Yeah.
don't have anything to lose. I don't have to put on a mask, a face. I don't have to code switch. I'm just let it all out for better or for worse. I did, and I got chosen. And I remember I remember when I got the phone call, I was in my dorm room, and they asked me if I wanted to be on Road Rules or Real World. And I was like, all right, what does Real World do? And they're like, well, they go to Hawaii. I'm like, woo, Hawaii. And then they work a job. And I'm like, oh.
You're like, oh.
Work a job in Hawaii? And what they do on Road Rules? Oh, you're gonna go around the world on a ship. And you get to stay in college and you get to go to college and get credits and go to 8 countries and go to Africa. That's all you had to say. I'm like,
that
you take me
is
to Africa? I get to go to Africa?
that is the perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you next. I thought Semester at Sea, in addition to being to me the most classic season of Road Rules, I'm like, what a cool concept that you actually get to travel and get college credits, go on these missions, go to all these different countries, and you're kind of competing for money. Is that correct? That there
Well,
was some kind of a prize
there
at the end?
were okay. So that season was very different, and there hasn't been a season like it since, or there wasn't a season like it before.
Mm-hmm.
Versus us competing for necessarily prizes. Like in some ways, there were prizes, but it wasn't to the extent like, oh, you've won this new Instapot, or you've won this new bike or whatever. It wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily like that. It was more so, this is what you came to do, and this is what you're supposed to do.
I got you.
I think we all got computers at the end. I remember I got an iMac, and then my iMac didn't work when I got back, and then I gave it to, like, I had either a friend or a cousin. I can't remember now, but I do remember that the person that I gave it to got it to work, and they
Oh
were just
wow,
doing great things
nice.
with it. So I was like, woohoo! You go, because I was always on the move after I got back. And I went and I grabbed this little semester at C piece because,
Wow, look at that.
let me tell you, so semester at C, I definitely didn't realize it at the time because I was going through a lot. Like, when I got back from semester at C, my mom died 9 months
Yeah,
later.
yeah,
So it's that whole time was kind of a blur for me in terms of really processing how intense that trip was for me in my life, and also taking advantage of the network and the community that semester at sea is. When my mom passed, I kind of associated everything and anything that had to do with her last couple of years here on earth. I kind of associated all that in one lump, and I tried to just be away from all of
yeah,
that as much, because
yeah,
it's painful.
yeah.
It's
Of
painful.
course.
Um, but here we are now, almost 20 years later, and time and distance do help with that kind of trauma. To I don't want to necessarily say it doesn't, it never stops hurting, but it does. The pain of it, you can begin to balance what that melody looks like in your life. So,
I like that.
um, so in
I like the
recent
way you
years,
phrase that.
yeah. So in recent years, the melody of that song, I've been able to hear the bass line a little more versus
Mm,
hearing just the. I like to call pain many times the sopralto, or either, like, when they say, I can't remember what the term is for the guys that can sing really really high octaves. It's left me right now, but falsetto.
falsetto.
So
Yeah,
the
I was
pain
gonna
is
say
like
that.
falsetto.
Yeah,
You those high notes can be hit, but it hurts. You know what I mean? Even if you try to do
yeah,
them, it hurts. But many times that bass line, which is so important to keep the rhythm and the tempo of the song, we don't always listen to it. We don't always, like, get into it. And I feel like, as an adult, I've been able to hear the bass line of Semester at Sea, and seeing how its rhythms have just really played out in how I raise my kids. All four of my kids have attended language immersion schools. My two older speak two languages in addition to English. So, I don't discount what Semester at Sea has done for me in my life. And
hmm
at this point, I'm now at a position where I can give back and just really begin to vocalize and verbalize how much that experience really touched my worldview, my mindset, and now I'm in more of a space and a position to really be active as an alum, ensuring that people know about the program in terms of
yeah.
underrepresented populations, and then give back financially to the program that really gave me so much.
Awesome,
So, so
awesome.
this right here, this
Semester
is for
C.
you. I'm gonna put this in the mail so you can have a
Are you
little,
serious? Oh my
yeah,
goodness.
send you some swag.
Thank you. There's
So
some
send that
questions
to
that I
you.
want to ask you about semester at sea because so much happened in there.
Yeah.
So many different things happened in there. One thing I wanted to say was I noticed, despite all the different things you were going through, you, out of all your cast members, actually seemed to be the one that was the most focused on the school and the actual things that you were doing in those countries, because it seemed like a lot of the other cast was kind of into the partying. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
I'll say, we can't. I think, unfortunately, we used to joke that Sean becomes the Eddie Winslow of our show, because many times, because he has the clean cut image. He had on the plaid, the button all the way to the top. He was that clean cut guy on the show, and for that show to be so new and different. A lot of times people focus, of course, on the drama, or they focus on whatever's happening in people's love lives. So you don't really get a chance to see a lot of him throughout the show resonating because he kind of, flies under the radar. But I think Sean's GPA was higher than mine. Like he
Yeah.
was serious
Well,
about going to class too. He
yeah.
was at the time he was at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and they don't accept any slow slugs in terms of the intellectuals and whatnot. So
Well, I feel like
yeah, I
every
think
show that you have been on has turned into the Ayanna show. I'm going to be honest. Any one of those shows, even if you were in there for 3 episodes, 5 episodes, it doesn't matter. They always did these like arcs that were all around you. So I can see what you're saying. They showed more of you. Some of the cast members, I kind of didn't even realize they were there because of how little, airtime, and you had so many different moments. So I can see what you're saying.
I just really feel like for the most part, I definitely went into each one of those seasons from a different space. But the one thing that was always the same, and even up to All Stars, was being vulnerable. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did find that with All Stars though, I really didn't want to go home with this angry person thing. And I've had to be very real and honest that, being angry is a part of who I am. It's a part of who
Yeah.
every person is. Now,
Yeah.
how that anger is manifested, one could debate, whether it's healthy or unhealthy. However, for people that really know me, like intimately know me, they know that I'm just not about that like drama. Like I'm not about that at all. Like I'm all about, going and, having a grill out on the water or, hot day, like dancing at the go-go or, just having these moments of joy. So,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm also competitive. So many
Yep.
times I've struggled in my life with finding the joy in the competitive state, like
Oh, yeah.
making the competition a funny thing
Yeah.
and having all of my personality come out in those moments because I'll like zone in on the I gotta win type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I like I said, I think my vulnerability is the one thing that hasn't changed. I will be vulnerable if I'm feeling like if I'm feeling safe enough to do it. Um, at the same time, I don't think I care as much as I used to about what other people think about me.
Yeah.
So
I feel like for people who read between the lines, that's evident. And the reason why I'm saying that is because if I compare the Challenge All Stars 2 versus all the other seasons, really, the salad moment that everybody talks about, right?
mhm,
So for me, it was just funny. I sent you a message right after that. Like,
you
this thing
did.
was hilarious. Thank you for giving me something to laugh at because there's so many things going on in the world right now. This was so funny. I want to just go into that moment where it started off in your deliberation ceremony,
Yeah.
and Melinda just jumped off throwing shots at you. She was like, I
She
didn't
just didn't want to
stop
go
it.
home. Listen, don't be too hard on Melinda. Don't be too hard on Mel. Looking back
I,
on it, mind you, in the moment, yes, I did feel like she was throwing shade. I'm like, okay,
well, she
like you
said,
you can state your case without like trying to throw darts at the sister. At the same time, now that's how I felt in the moment. How I feel now that I've been home, had time to sink in. She said what she felt like she needed to say, so she wouldn't go home. Like,
right.
or wouldn't
So,
go into
so
the elimination.
right.
Um,
She did what she had to
so
do for the game.
yeah, she
So
had to
she
do what she
said,
needed to do for the game. So, I don't hold that against her at all.
right,
And,
right.
I've had a few chances to speak to her outside of, the game, the challenge. And I
You
think
so
too, like being home and you get a chance to see like what people
yeah,
were going through that you
yeah,
weren't a part of. Like, I
yeah.
wasn't a part of her whole conversation about, the
Yes,
losing her
yes,
child.
yes, 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 yes.
So, and there was no reason why I should have been a part of that conversation because I didn't have that relationship that she had
Yeah, yeah,
with the people that she shared that with. So, kind of putting into context the why behind people what they do. I think many times in the challenge fandom in the community, there are folks who really reach to get to the backstory and then they apply that backstory and things
yeah,
make a lot of sense. And then there's others that are just really like not gonna go that deep. They're like, we either
So,
love you or we hate you. You are either Glinda the Good Witch or we trying to throw water on your ass and melt you.
mm,
Um, I do think that one of the wonderful aspects of, Bunim Murray as a production company, you know, is that they're really about telling a story. And, whether or not that story is something that everybody agrees with, they are really storytellers. And so, to have this realization that, wow, every single day in our lives, we're in these circumstances where we can, either uplift somebody or we can write them off.
mhm,
How many times do we not consider the backstory? How many times do
mhm,
we hold our backstory in and don't tell anybody and just,
mhm,
kind of go with our path, kind of, willy nilly and letting it bounce off the wall. Um,
mhm.
you know, that salad moment, to just bring it full circle, it literally was my attempt to slice through the tension.
I figured.
It's
Figured.
like, at the end of the day, I'm going to try to slice through the tension. I'm not going to be like kiss ass about it. I'm going to be righteous and bold with exactly what was on my mind when I ate the salad and see where the chips fall. At the very least of things, I'm going to get some laughs up here. At the very least of things. At the worst of things, then, hey, maybe somebody that could send me home ain't going to like me no more. But I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to see myself on television scared. I didn't want to see myself leaving something on the table. When I got home, somebody had asked me to, like, that maybe that could have cost you $500,000. Do you know what that money would have done for you, your family, your kids? We know your situation. Like, why would you throw all that away for a salad? I'm like, I didn't throw it away for a salad. I was like, I couldn't finish the final. Like, my
Yeah.
my physical, capacity as a 1 year postpartum, hadn't been in the gym. Pools just opened up in DC like 2 weeks before we had to go on a plane, like hadn't been in a swimming pool or whatever. My body got to a place where it couldn't go anymore. I ran out of gas. Like, that's just what it is. Like, that's what kept me from that. At the same time, what is for you in this life is for you. Full stop. Was for you. And for, and I guess we're beyond the point of spoilers, but if you haven't watched the challenge yet and you don't want a spoiler right now, you might want to mute or pause for it a little bit because I'm about to, drop one down. When the eventual winners of season 2, come to light and you see how it goes down, you know, for me, once we got out that van to, start our process of going through the final, every single person that I was looking at was somebody that I felt like if they win, they deserve it. You know what I
Uh,
mean? There was not
yeah.
one person there. And even if the tables had been turned and Brad and Jody had been in the mix, I
Yeah.
still would have felt the same way. Yeah, I ate Jody's salad, but that doesn't mean that I think that she's just this horrible person that needs to, disappear off the planet, just because we have differences in opinion and worldview. That ain't it. Um, it's a fun thing, especially during a time where so many of us as human beings are just going through some really intense stuff. You know,
Hmm.
for me, the challenge at that stage was me escaping everything that I had to deal with over the course of the last 4 years, and then 2 years into the pandemic. It was an opportunity to hit the reset button on my life, you know. And whereas other people may do that and have a different process for resetting their
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
uh, there are those of us that walk, how they say, we walk softly with a different stick. And I
Hmm.
think that people that resonated with some folk, and hope to get a chance to do it again.
Yeah. I definitely hope that you get a chance to do it again too. So I was gonna say that for me, I just watched the show. It was funny. The moment was funny and everything. And then these challenge fans page, you already addressed all that, but yeah, that's what happens. I was never on challenge fans pages before. Now I even have my own. It's called the Challenge All-Star Chat. People were going in about this situation and people felt a way about that. And to me, I personally feel like if somebody says something to me that I don't hold true at all, this person doesn't know me and this is not true, maybe I'll be upset about it. But I think that it can be a trigger for somebody who can connect with it or relate to it. So that was kind of my view, because I've watched many challenge seasons. There's been Pizzagate. There's like, I know people get pissed off about their food getting eaten,
Yeah,
but it seemed like this was kind of blown out of proportion for what it was.
absolutely.
I remember I reached out to you. This is a spoiler. Again, anyone can stop if they haven't seen this yet. But there was an elimination that you were doing in the second episode, I believe, and you were going against Leah. And, I was cheering like a fan and everything. It was really exciting watching you drag the 300-pound coffin and do the puzzles and everything. You're like, I do this with my kids. And I'm like, she made this look really easy. In that moment where you could have just celebrated and been like, yeah, beat your chest, you were kind of like, you went over to help Leah and, you helped her and you dragged the coffin and everything with her. And it's like, this is your moment too, type of thing. And all the cast was crying and everybody said that this was one of their favorite moments. So for you, knowing what was going to come up, I guess you probably didn't know the exact edit, but I'm wondering, did you know that was going to come up in the next episode? You didn't know that.
Now, remind you, there may be others that, again, we do live in the age where there are just interpersonal relationships. And, again, I'm not a part of that world. I live in DC with my 4 kids. Like that's pretty much my scope and my range at this point. It's changing a little bit, but for the most part, that's my world. So I saw all the episodes when you guys saw them. When they dropped on Paramount Plus at midnight Pacific time, 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I saw them with you guys. And many times right at 3 a.m. because I wanted to see it before my kids saw it, before anybody else saw it, so that if they were asking me about something, I knew what to talk about. Um, Also, I was curious. Like, I had a really good time. And I think this was the first time I'd ever been on a challenge or any kind of, television exploit in this genre where I was super excited to watch it. Like, I mean, and that's so liberating to not be afraid of something that maybe you said or did that could be embarrassing or whatever. It was my first time like experiencing that. I knew I didn't get kicked off for anything, so I didn't
Yeah.
have to have no trauma behind that. And so that being said, um I didn't know how it was going to go with the edits. I just literally went out there and lived my life.
That's the
I
best
I
way.
stayed and was there for the things that I'm about. When there were moments where I wasn't about that life, I was vocal and I'm like, I'm not about this. I'm not about arguing with you right now. I'm not about whatever. And that's what it is. You what they say, what you see is what you get. What you saw is what you got. Um, you know, with Leah specifically, like if I go on my phone right now, I think there's probably either a text from her or there's like a text from me within the last couple of days because you find your tribe in life sometimes and you're just like, damn, why didn't I know you 20 years ago? We would have, I don't know, started a candle business or something together. Just something funky where you sync with someone. And I felt like that with her from day one. Um, and not even to like put extra roses on it or anything, but that first night in the house for everybody, you're going to get flooded with whatever happened the last time you were on the show. And
Hmm.
for a lot of us, it had been a long time since we'd been in that environment, in the way as a cast member. Um, I remember Leah and we shared conversations before any of that went down, just about our kids just living life and struggling through things not always working out the way you planned with those that you love and having to overcome that. And we found a sisterhood just in talking about that. And when it did come down to that first vote and you start to see the flavors of voting and the politics and that wavelength is starting to
Yeah.
penetrate. You guys know, y'all in the fandom, y'all know what it is. um I know I didn't like her sitting there having everybody say her name and then give these BS reasons
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
why they chose her. My thing is this: we are here on the All Stars Challenge. None of us are, none of us are new to the rodeo. Just say, look,
Yes, you're
I'm
so
voting for
right.
you
Hmm.
because I'm not voting for none of them. And that's what it is. Sorry for you. And I do think maybe somebody said that, but most people gave some really rosy reason, like, oh, I was at this person's wedding and I don't know you very well.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think that it was them being inauthentic. It's just some people get into this routine that they got to sugarcoat stuff because of their political lives
Yes.
or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
And I don't knock them, right? Because they might not have the bills that I have. They might be real comfortable, and that sugarcoating has gotten them very far. So I'm not going to knock that. At the same time, I also know what it feels like to have the entire room vote you into something that you don't want to do. To have the
Oh boy.
entire room kind of like isolate you. And she
Yeah.
was there for the
Yeah.
same reason that I was, to try to get a resource for her for her son, for her kids. So, after the vote happened, she and I, we went to the side and we talked, and I was like, look, whether you come out of this or I come out of this, both of us are going to be in a circumstance where the room is going to be looking at us. We're going to be targets. So, since this is the very first one, we ain't going out hating on each other. We're going to go out on shoulders. Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have your flowers. I'm gonna get my flowers. Like, let be able to go home to our families and be like, we went out shining. We went out on a, what is that? Not blades of glory, but you know what I'm trying to
Yeah. I
say,
got you.
waves of glory or whatever the euphemism is. But you know, we're we're at that space in life where again we might not get this shot again. One of my heroes is actually on the wall behind me. I gotta tell you about this poster and why I love this poster because,
Sure.
and you talk about divine intervention. So I did have the opportunity to watch this season of Survivor that the sister was on. Her name's Natalie Cole, and she went on Survivor at 57 years
Wow.
old, and was kicking butt and taking names. Business owner, another mom of multiple children, and all of her kids are just boom, boom, boom. She has two girls, two boys, and they're just on and they're fire. One of them went to Howard, and you know, I just looked at her like, you know what? Maybe this chapter of my life isn't finished yet. Maybe, like John Brennan says, I ain't done singing
I
yet.
thought of that
You
because I've seen
know,
that on your page. I also watched that on the Homecoming. Yeah.
listen, like John Brennan, and that's a whole nother we could be here for 3 hours just talking
Yeah, I
about
know y'all
just
connected after
all
the
these
yeah, after
dots
the show.
connected. But to be older, to be at a space where you don't know if you're going to get that call again. And it's because there's so many of us now. I mean, what is it,
Yeah.
30, 38, 37 seasons of the challenge, you know, um, 42 seasons of Survivor. Now you got Big Brother and
Yeah.
CBS Universe, all this stuff. Who knows if you'll ever get a shot again? So why look back on it with regrets? Why look back on it as something that you can't talk about or something that causes you pain? And because I like her too, I was like, we're not going out like that. And, for her carabiner to open, for the anxiety to kind of have taken over that moment for her, I treated her as I would want somebody to treat me in that circumstance, as I would want my friend to treat me in that circumstance. I consider her a friend. Like, no bullshit. Like, she could literally like knock on my door right now. I'm like, there's the refrigerator. Here's where the clean hand towels are. Here's a fresh bar of soap for you. Like, I really would
Hmm.
ride for her because she didn't show me anything that would cause me pause to make me feel like she didn't ride for me for real. So that gets into the
Yeah, so
episode
I
too,
wanted to
right?
give you like a fan perspective because we didn't see much.
Yeah.
And this has been the case in several of your incidents on these TV shows where we get the accounts of the cast members, but we don't see the footage. So this is another one of those. So we saw Sophia's explanation that she wanted you to braid her hair. And then the next thing that you know, they showed her talking in the confessional and saying, this reminded me of something of a braid that I used to get back in the day or whatever. And then it showed her going around with John A and crying and talking to these different people. For me, I felt like if that situation, just common sense for me, if that situation had been explained to you, I don't see it going down that way. It seemed more like a situation where there was a big reaction in that moment that caught you off guard. And then there was kind of a telephone game after that with
I wish it
talking
was
to all these
TikTok. I could
other
be like, bing, bing. I
people
put
that
these,
weren't
there was
there, getting
bells
this
up there.
account and then reacting to the account. And then, how would you say that there's any accuracy to that thought?
I would say that when there's a $500,000 on the line, you cannot be surprised at what humans will do. Full stop. And I've been at first when I first got home and saw the show. Like again, I saw her crying and snotting to other people when you guys saw her crying and snotting to other people.
Okay.
What I experienced on the show, and I think you said it better than I could have put it. Many times you actually see the footage of things, and then sometimes you get people having to piece it together by other people telling the story because
Yeah.
you don't have the footage. It's debatable as it can be debated
Yeah.
about what happens when you don't have the footage, what really happened and what the perspective is. But again, one of the things that I love about the production company that puts all this together, I have to also admit that it's something that maybe might not always make me look to be the best person. It's storytelling. There was a story there, and
Yeah.
they told the story the way in which they thought that it was going to be germane to what you guys needed to see.
Yeah.
So,
And
do I think it's the only story? No, but whatever is in life, there's never just one story. For me, I'm real clear with everybody that I deal with. The moment that I can't trust you, the moment that I feel like, you're not really, it's one thing to joke around and play with somebody. And it's another thing to be just straight up like lying. Like, I mean, that's the only way I can
and
put that. I can't even put that in a nicer way. Like, it's nothing to just be straight up lying on somebody. And, for her to be somebody that sat in my house, that's, been in intimate spaces with people that know me. And for her to have this kind of angle, that's for her and whatever she believes in spiritually to deal with. It ain't for me. But I'll tell you this, when it came to, if it's going to be me or you, when it comes to the next challenge, I'm not gonna sit back and in some magnanimous way and be like, oh, she was just having a day over her hair. No, I had like what 4 or 5 people to choose from on the day of our challenge. I was saved. I earned my life shield
you sure did. You had a
in the
target on your
elimination
back.
arena. So at the end of the day, it's like I chose the name that I chose. I always come back to whenever fans are just really like adamant about what you did to her was wrong. You were a backstabber or whatever. I'm like, okay, who should have gone in? Who should have in her place gone in? Because if you look at who wound up going in, it winds up being Jody and Sophia, right? So what? Kendall should have gone in. Casey should have gone in. John A should have gone in. Like, who should have gone in? If not for her, who should have gone in? So I own the fact that I chose the name of the person out of everybody that was, available to be chosen from. That wasn't myself. I chose a person who I thought I could trust the least. And,
Makes sense.
what's been more hurtful for me around that whole circumstance is that folks who have extended race into that conversation. Like, I shouldn't have done that because she's black, or I shouldn't have done that because she, identifies as LGBTQ. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on. Why is it that because this is what I look like, that should determine how I deal with people in interpersonal
Yeah.
relationships?
Yeah.
Like,
I
I
don't
don't
like
rock with
that.
that. Like, that doesn't add up to me. So, at the end of the day, it happened. I wouldn't take it back at all. Like, call me smug, call me. Yeah. Who gets an opportunity like that in their lifetime to, to do extreme activities and possibly, win that kind of cash? Like, so
Did you watch the All Stars one? I mean, the
I
Challenge All Star.
have. I've seen the whole season.
Okay, so
Before the challenge, though, no, I'd only caught in like bits and pieces of episodes.
but you've seen it
And
now.
oh
So
yeah, I watched
there
it.
was an incident in that season with Hizella,
Yeah.
and I asked her about that. She was actually commented in my Facebook group, and also I asked her in a cameo about her situation with Anissa.
Yeah.
I see
That's
similarities in,
hard. That's really tough,
yeah,
because they were very close.
yeah,
Like, we're not
yeah,
even talking. Like I said, Sophia been in my house. She, she's somebody that knows some of my people, like the people that really, really like intimately know me. She knows some of my people. At the same time, there were these long gaps between the last
yes.
time that I had
So
seen her.
yeah, so Hizella had
So
said
it wasn't. I
her
can't necessarily equate it to.
is not the same. Yeah,
It's not the same.
um,
It ain't the
but
same. And it's very tough for me to even speak on, like,
right,
imagine watching two people that you love arguing on
yeah,
screen. Like, I love Anissa and I
yeah,
love Hisela. Like,
yeah,
I got like real love for these two people. So to see them, you know, to see them in have to go through what they went through, it's just tough, because sometimes when you love somebody, you don't love somebody because they're perfect. You
yeah,
love somebody because that your heart tells you that whatever their worst quality is, it ain't enough for you to stop loving them.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so Hasella's been pretty vocal about how she feels about things, and Anissa's had opportunities to say her piece. I like to let people speak
Yeah.
for themselves in it.
Yeah, yeah.
I kind of wish it hadn't gone down in the way that it did go down, because Yes wound up winning. So at the end of the day, it's like, damn, you lose this close friendship and you don't even win the bag. So it's tough. But when the rubber meets the road, shoot, how they say, one finger pointed out, three fingers pointed back at myself. Do I feel like I lost a friend in Sophia because of this whole thing? I'll leave it at this. You can't lose a friend that was never a real friend. All you can do is expose the lack of friendship in the first place. I can't speak to whether or not that's
That's
the case for, um,
right. That's not your
Priscilla and
situation.
Anissa, but
Hmm.
I could definitely say that was the case for me, because yeah, there were things that went down that didn't have to go down like that. They didn't have to go down like that. Um, there's things I can't speak on because they weren't on camera.
Right, right.
But it was made very clear to me that the way that I was treated, by Sophia, is not how a friend would treat a friend. The same way that, again, Melinda didn't come to me and tell me her intimate, struggle that she was
Yes.
going through, because I wasn't close to her like that. I wasn't her close friend, you know. But she did go to people that were her intimate friends. I would make an assumption that of all the people there, that that there was enough of a history, enough of backstory, that if Sophia really had these issues with her hair or me or anything like that, she could have pulled me aside directly.
That's
That didn't
exactly how I
happen.
felt.
That
That's
didn't
exactly
happen.
how I felt.
That didn't happen. So y'all didn't see that, and that didn't happen in that way. Um, I'm not even gonna sit up here in front and be like I'm super hurt over it because I'm not. Now that I'm home, and I've had family members die since I've been home. COVID and just real life stuff go down. And I'm just like, I went on that show one time after like 16, 17 years and
Which
had
is amazing, by the way.
yeah, and had the time of my life. Some people had 15 shots at the bag, 10 shots at the bag, 9 shots at the bag. I think Sophia's has multiple shots at the bag. So my thing is, you got to do with your dash what you want to do with your dash. I definitely feel like I did righteously by my dash. I gave everything I had, and a little bit more,
Hmm.
and pushed myself to places that I never thought I could go. I've lost a crap ton of weight, so I'm feeling better, like about making it to 60 and 70 and 80 and
Yeah.
90, and maybe pulling a Natalie at 57 and being able to, still do competition shows or just live life in a way that's bold and physically capable.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So
I would hope that the fandom can read between the lines.
yeah, yeah.
Also remember that, remember who's here. I'm here after 17 years. Y'all know all the intimate details of the challenge. Y'all know who's been alternates and who's been sipping tea on the side